She humiliated me by spitting in my face in front of my entire family when I proposed to her on Christmas, mocking the ring and me. But I left her right there, and now she's trying to come back while discovering that the true shame was only just beginning for her. I am 29 years old, and I had been with Madison, 28, for 3 years. I met her at a mutual friend's birthday party when I was 26. She was wearing a summer dress, and being completely honest, I thought she was the most attractive woman in the room. We talked for hours, laughed about silly nonsense, and at the end of the night, she gave me her number. We started dating shortly after. 6 months later, Madison moved into my apartment. She said her lease was up, that it was the most logical step, and that it was a good financial decision, although the reality is that financially, it only worked for her. I covered the rent, utilities, food, and practically all household expenses. She worked part-time at a downtown boutique, earning perhaps minimum wage, but for some mysterious reason, her paycheck completely vanished on clothes, nails, hair appointments, and lunches with friends. Every outing we had, I paid. I also started covering her car insurance because she was short that month. Then it was the next month, and eventually, it simply became another one of my responsibilities. Every time I tried to talk about the subject, she would get defensive. She accused me of being controlling, of keeping score, claiming that if I really loved her, I wouldn't be questioning anything. She alleged that her job didn't pay well and that since I earned more, she didn't see what the problem was. I, like a fool in love, told myself that eventually things would balance out, that when she found a better job or when we got married, everything would change. And so we arrived at Christmas Eve. I had planned to propose for 2 months. I found a jeweler recommended by a coworker. I chose a ring with good clarity, a good cut, and excellent quality. It wasn't the flashiest one in the store, but it was a ring that truly represented how I felt about her. It cost me 2 months of salary, $8,200 after taxes, and the absurd warranty I bought. It was money that could have easily gone toward a new car, starting a house fund, or anything more sensible, but I wanted her to feel special. I wanted a perfect moment. My family had organized Christmas dinner at home. Mom prepared her famous prime rib. Dad told the same old stories that we all pretended to laugh at for the 20th time, and my sister Lauren was playing with her kids by the tree. The whole house smelled of pine, cinnamon, and Christmas. It was the ideal moment. I waited until after dinner, when everyone was gathered in the living room. My hands were shaking when I pulled out the ring box. I had rehearsed what I wanted to say 100 times. I knelt in front of Madison and whispered, "Madison, I love you. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?" Everything fell into absolute silence. My family was smiling, phones ready to record, Mom with her hand on her chest, Dad proud, Lauren moved to tears. And Madison. Madison looked at the ring, then looked at me, and her face adopted an expression I had never seen before. It was something between disgust and anger, as if I had just insulted her entire family. "Are you serious?" she said with genuine disbelief. I didn't know how to answer. "This ring is a joke." I tried to explain, but my brain shut down. "It's small," she spat out as if pronouncing a grave offense. "You expect me to wear this? My friend Brian got a much bigger ring last year. And you give me this?" The air turned heavy. No one spoke, but everyone was listening. Mom looked horrified. Dad was no longer smiling, and Lauren had her mouth completely open. I wanted to say something, anything. But before I could move, Madison leaned toward me and spat in my face. "This is what I think of your cheap and pathetic ring." She spat with absolute contempt. A sepulchral silence filled the room. Mom gasped. I could even hear the kids stop playing. I remained there kneeling, with the ring in my hand and saliva running down my cheek. And in that instant, something inside me simply broke. 3 years paying for everything. 3 years being accused of being controlling for asking for basic respect. 3 years holding up the relationship while she spent her salary on frivolities. 3 years, and now tease in front of my parents, my sister, my nephews. I didn't have a drop of dignity left to lose. I wiped my face with my sleeve and said with a calmness that even surprised me, "It's over." Madison's face lost all color. "What? It's over. Take your things and get out of my apartment. You can't break up with me." I just did. She looked at everyone seeking support, but no one moved. Mom watched her with scorn. Dad looked ready to shove her out, and Lauren just shook her head. It was then that her indignation transformed into fury. "Perfect. You want the truth? I'm still in love with Derek, my ex. He knows how to treat a woman. He doesn't keep score like you. He doesn't make me feel cheap. I've been seeing him for months, and you know what? I'm leaving with him right now. He would have bought me the ring I actually deserve." The room fell into a terrifying silence again. She grabbed her purse and her coat and walked toward the door. Dad made a move to say something, but Mom stopped him. Just before leaving, Madison turned, looked at me with disdain, and finished, "Derek would have gotten me the ring you never could." She closed the door without making a sound. She didn't slam it, didn't scream, she just left, leaving a void that rang louder than any argument. Dad put a hand on my shoulder. Mom looked ready to go out and fight her in the driveway. Lauren was already checking Madison's social media, surely ready to discover how much more she had been hiding. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I sat in my apartment, surrounded by all of Madison's things, going over every one of her words again and again. Knowing she had been cheating on me for months, minimum 6, maybe more, left me in a strange state, an unpleasant mix of disbelief and contained rage. Up until that moment, I had been sunk in sadness, but that night something changed in me. I stopped lamenting and started getting truly angry. The next morning, December 26th, I woke up in the middle of the same chaos, 3 years of accumulated belongings from someone who didn't actually want to share a life with me anymore. I got up, took my phone, and sent her a direct message, "You have until noon to pick up your things. After that, they go on the street." She didn't reply. When the clock struck 12:30, I got tired of waiting. I started gathering all her clothes, shoes, makeup, jewelry, books, every object she had left in my house over 3 years. Without thinking too much, I opened the window of my second-floor apartment and started throwing everything into the parking lot. Dresses landing in frozen puddles, shoes bouncing on the asphalt, and even that designer bag I had bought for her birthday ended up sunk in a puddle of dirty water and melted snow. The weather was on my side, cold, wet, perfect for ruining other people's belongings without much effort. By 2 p.m., it looked like the scene of an absurdly expensive and messy garage sale. I took a photo of the disaster, sent it to her, and wrote, "Your things are outside. You have 1 hour before everything ends up donated or picked up by whoever walks by." In less than 5 minutes, my phone rang. "Are you crazy? You can't throw my things out like that." "I already did. Those things are worth a lot of money." "Then hurry up. It's starting to snow again. Derek is with me. He's going to make you regret it if you don't bring everything back inside." I couldn't help but laugh. "Let him try. I'm right here." She hung up without saying more. Half an hour later, a rather battered Ford Focus pulled into the parking lot. Madison got out, and I assumed immediately Derek. The guy was exactly what I imagined, a gym fanatic, tight t-shirt to show off muscles he probably exercised more than his brain, and that energy of a person who records themselves lifting weights to post inspirational quotes about discipline and effort. Madison looked like a disaster, hair messy, no makeup, wearing the same clothes as the day before, and with the expression of someone who hadn't slept at all. As soon as she got out of the car, she ran toward her things scattered in the snow while making dramatic sounds, as if witnessing a tragedy. Derek, on the other hand, came straight toward me, puffing out his chest as if he were in a posing contest. "You got a problem, bro?" Just cleaning up trash. His face turned red. Are you calling Madison trash? If the definition fits. Speaking of definitions, I think one of her shoes is in that puddle. He stepped closer. I didn't move. We were about 5 steps apart, close enough for me to smell the exaggerated scent of his cheap cologne. Derek, just help me with the stuff, screamed Madison, carrying a pile of wet clothes, but he was already deep in his alpha male role. She was watching, he had to impress. No, this guy needs to learn respect. Seriously, you're about to get into trouble if you don't shut your mouth. Madison stopped gathering, turned toward us with that unhealthy excitement in her eyes of someone expecting a fight. Do it, babe. Teach him. And that was when Derek made the mistake. He tried to punch me. I was already expecting something like that. Men like him always announce their intentions from miles away. They tense their arm too much, twist their torso as if they want everyone to see how strong they are. I only had to step aside. His fist passed by, and he was left completely off balance. Before he could recover his posture, I grabbed his extended arm and pulled him, using his own momentum. He stumbled forward, flailing his arms to keep from falling. I didn't give him time. I advanced, drove my shoulder into his chest, and at the same time tripped his ankle. The impact against the pavement was blunt and satisfying. He tried to get up with that gym guy pride that doesn't want to accept defeat. He barely managed to get on all fours when I was already on top of him. I grabbed the back of his head and slammed his face into the ground. I didn't use all my strength, but enough. I heard his nose break a dry, unpleasant sound. Blood started gushing immediately. Stay down, I told him. Madison screamed his name. I just watched him from above, breathing deeply. He was making choked sounds with his hands covering his face while blood filtered through his fingers. His nose was already swelling, crooked. You broke his nose, she screamed. He defended himself poorly. Not my problem. Too much muscle, zero technique. You're a monster. He attacked me on my property. It's called self-defense. But you should take him to the hospital. That nose looks fatal. Derek tried to get up one more time, but he barely had coordination. He sat there wobbling, bleeding uncontrollably. Madison tried to lift him, but he was dead weight. Finally, she managed to drag him to the car. He left a trail of red drops marking the path. She got him in, ran around the car, started it, and shot out of the parking lot, leaving most of her things scattered in the snow. I simply went back inside, washed my hands, made coffee, and put on The Godfather. 3 hours later, she returned alone. I saw her from the window when she parked. She stood there for a moment observing her soaked and ruined belongings. Then she started picking them up, crying, making trips between the parking lot and the car. She looked exhausted, same clothes, smeared makeup, swollen eyes. On her third trip, she looked up and saw me watching from the window. That's where she lost her composure. She took a wet dress and threw it against the building wall. Then a shoe. Then a book. Finally, she picked up a high heel, waved it at me as if she wanted to use it as a weapon, and started screaming something I couldn't hear through the glass. I called the police without thinking twice. At that moment, there was no room for doubt or second interpretations. I just wanted someone to restore order before the situation escalated even more. With a tense voice, I dialed 911, and as soon as they answered, I let the information out almost in one breath. I need officers at the Riverside Apartments on Oak Street, I explained, trying to stay serene. My ex-girlfriend is destroying her own belongings in the parking lot and causing a pretty big disturbance. While I spoke, I watched from my window as Madison remained sunk in that irrational frenzy that had consumed her since she discovered our relationship was truly over. At first, she was only throwing the clothes I had carefully piled outside, but in a matter of minutes, she had moved on to grabbing any object near her decorative garden stones, a piece of wood I had no idea where it came from, even what looked like a trash can lid. The scene became surreal. She was beside herself, screaming incoherencies, waving a heel around as if it were a knife, and repeating Derek's name between nonsensical phrases. In less than 5 minutes, a patrol car appeared at the back of the parking lot with sirens off but lights on. 2 officers got out of the vehicle. One adjusted his belt, the other quickly scanned the area. Upon seeing them, Madison tried to compose herself as if she had suddenly remembered that police presence required a certain attitude. She straightened her clothes, wiped her face with her hand, and tried to project a composure she no longer possessed. "Ma'am, we received a report of a disturbance," said one of the police officers with a firm but patient voice. Immediately, Madison raised the heel, pointing toward my window, although with such bad aim she was pointing at a completely different bush. "Him," she screamed. "That man threw my things from his apartment and attacked my boyfriend. He is the aggressor, you have to arrest him." The officers exchanged a quick look. One of those looks that says, "There's more here than meets the eye," without needing words. One of them took a couple of steps forward. "Are you okay, ma'am?" he asked. "You seem upset." "I'm fine," she replied immediately, too quickly. "I'm just upset because he." "Those belongings are yours?" the officer interrupted. Madison nodded vehemently, as if trying to convince herself. "Yes, he threw them all." "So, are you causing a scene over your own belongings on private property?" asked the policeman, adopting a firmer tone. "If you no longer live here, he can legally remove them. You need to pick up your things and leave, or we will have to cite you for disturbing the peace." Madison started to tremble. I didn't know if it was rage, frustration, or simply emotional exhaustion she could no longer hide. Her eyes darted from the police to my window as if desperately seeking someone to blame. "All of this is his fault," she screamed again, pointing at me with that heel as if it were an accusing wand. "He's the one who should be arrested." Now she was waving her hands uncontrollably, still with the heel clutched in one of them, making the situation look even more dangerous. "Ma'am, calm down and pick up your belongings," the officer insisted, trying to keep calm. "I am calm," she shouted, completely contradicting her tone, posture, and behavior. One of the policemen took another step closer, raising an open hand as a sign that he didn't want to startle her. "Ma'am," he said with patience, "we need you to put down that shoe and breathe. You are not helping your situation." "I don't need to calm down," she replied. "I need you to arrest that man. He is ruining my life." The officer extended his hand to try to reassure her, but just at that moment, Madison lost the last trace of self-control she had left. With a brusque movement, she pushed him with both hands directly on the chest. Everything froze for an instant. The scene hung in a strange silence, almost unreal, as if no one could believe what had just happened. The policeman took a step back, looked at his own chest, then at his partner, and finally at Madison. "Ma'am," he said with a firm voice, without shouting, "you just assaulted a police officer. Turn around and place your hands behind your back." "What?" "No, no. He grabbed me first." "I was defending myself," she responded in a tone that sounded more like desperation than certainty. "Turn around immediately." It was self-defense, she insisted, although even she seemed to realize she had crossed a point of no return. 30 seconds later, she was in handcuffs. She kept struggling, screaming that it was all a trap, that I had planned everything, that none of this was fair. Her words got lost between sobs and screams as they guided her toward the back of the patrol car. One of the officers came up to my apartment to take a formal statement. I told him every detail, from the scene at Christmas, the infidelity, the breakup, and everything that happened in the parking lot. I showed him messages, photos, and any evidence that could help. "We are charging her with assaulting an officer and disturbing the peace," he informed me. "And her belongings? What do I do with all that?" I asked, looking out the window at the disaster in the parking lot. "That's between you two," he replied. But if I were you, I'd remove everything before tomorrow to avoid giving her an excuse to return. When the patrol car left, with Madison still screaming from inside, I called a junk removal company. I paid them $200 to pick up everything she had left thrown around. Watching them load her bags, boxes, and broken objects away from the apartment complex was, honestly, a sensation of relief I didn't know how much I needed. It was, without a doubt, the best money I've spent in years. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I filed a request for a temporary restraining order. I included the Christmas scene, the confrontation in the parking lot, and her arrest. The judge approved it without hesitation. Madison was forbidden from coming within 500 feet of me, my apartment, or my work. I needed it more than I wanted to admit. When I checked my phone, I had 17 missed calls from unknown numbers, voicemails from Madison's mother, her sister, and several friends, all assuring me that I was a monster for ruining her life, for forcing her arrest, for throwing out her things, for being abusive. Nothing new. I blocked it all and went to work. Arriving at the office was like entering another universe. There were no screams, no dramas, no scenes of hysteria, just adults busy with their tasks. I spent the morning reviewing blueprints for an office complex downtown, checking calculations, and ensuring everything met codes. It was almost therapeutic. Still, I noticed my coworkers were acting strange. They looked at me as if they knew something they dared not say, as if waiting for me to bring up the topic first so they could just nod. During lunch hour, Tyler came to my desk, sat on the edge, sighed, and commented, "Bro, I heard what happened. What a complicated situation." There wasn't much else. The others just gave awkward pats on my shoulder, as if they didn't know whether they were being supportive or meddling in private affairs. A woman from accounting left me homemade cookies, and when mentioning them, she stood still as a statue, almost regretting having spoken. That same afternoon, I received an email from an unknown address. Upon opening it, I felt rage climb up my back like a chill. It was from Derek, or someone pretending to be him. Subject: "We need to talk." The message was a jumble of threats disguised as victimhood. It said I had attacked him, that he was going to ruin my life, that he would inform my company that I was violent and unstable, that he would make public all my dangerous acts. I forwarded it to my personal email to save it as evidence and blocked him. 2 hours later, another email arrived, longer, more aggressive, more threatening. It spoke of finding where I worked, defaming me on social media, making me pay. I saved that one too. The next morning, Derek decided to carry out part of his threats. He found my company's public email and sent a message believing it would go directly to my boss, although it actually ended up in the general HR inbox. The email was ridiculous. He claimed I was dangerous, that I shouldn't work with clients, that I had attacked him unprovoked. His mistake was sending it from his work email. The signature clearly showed where he worked, Lakeview Fitness, where apparently he was a personal trainer. That afternoon, the HR manager called me to her office. She closed the door with a seriousness she didn't usually use with me. "Jackson," she said, clasping her hands on the desk, "we need to talk about an email we received this morning." Her look made it clear that what was coming was important. "I received a quite peculiar email about you. Do you want to explain to me what is happening?" she asked calmly, though I noticed concern in her voice. I told her everything from the beginning. The marriage proposal, the public humiliation, the fight in the parking lot, Madison's arrest, and everything that happened after. I showed her the emails Derek had sent me, the police report of Madison's arrest, and the documentation related to the restraining order. She listened to every detail without interrupting, taking notes seriously. "So, let me see if I understood correctly," she said finally. "This man is your ex's boyfriend, and he is harassing you at your workplace because you defended yourself when he was the one who attacked you first." "Exactly," I replied. "And he sent these emails from his work address at a gym?" "Yes." She remained thoughtful for a few seconds. "I'm going to communicate with his employer." They need to know that one of their employees is using company resources to harass and threaten someone on our team. But I need your authorization to share certain details of the situation. Do you have it? I answered without hesitating. Perfect. Give me a few weeks to handle everything through official channels, she said before ending the conversation. I didn't ask what she planned to do, I just thanked her and returned to my tasks. 3 weeks later, I noticed something had changed. Derek's social media accounts were empty. His Instagram had disappeared, his Facebook too. His profile on the Lakeview Fitness website no longer existed. That same day, around noon, Tyler came to my desk. Hey, did you see they fired that trainer who was harassing you? How did you find out? I asked, surprised. My wife goes to Lakeview Fitness. Apparently, the owner received an email from our HR department explaining that one of his employees was using company resources to threaten someone. They checked his email and fired him last week. That's how I understood what had happened. Our HR manager had taken the situation very seriously. She communicated directly with the corporate office of Lakeview Fitness. She explained everything precisely, using clear legal terms, and detailed how their employee represented a liability risk for the company. So, corporate contacted the franchise owner. The owner checked Derek's emails, and in a matter of days, he was unemployed. I didn't feel even a bit of guilt. 2 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. I was about to reject it, but something made me answer. Hello, it's Derek, said a trembling voice on the other end. He sounded different. Broken. We have nothing to talk about, I answered. Please, just listen for a minute. Against my instinct, I didn't hang up. After you broke my nose, I went back to Madison at my apartment. I thought she would be worried because I couldn't breathe well and my face was so swollen I looked like I'd been hit by a truck, he recounted, pausing to catch his breath. But she was furious. With me, not you. I stayed silent. She screamed that I had embarrassed her, that a real man would have defended her. She called me weak, pathetic. And then, he stopped. She hit me. She slapped me because according to her, I made her look like a fool in front of you. I continued saying nothing. I'm a coward, I know. I attacked you because she wanted me to do it. I sent you those emails because I thought it would make her happy. I did everything she asked without even thinking. And now? I don't even know what I expected to achieve, he admitted with a defeated voice. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. Because I'm sorry. Truly, I'm sorry. You were right about her. She's not worth it. She was never worth it. I lost my job, my apartment, I can't pay rent, and I also lost any respect I had left for myself, he said almost in a whisper. There was a long silence. I just wanted to apologize. You didn't deserve anything I did to you. You just defended your property and defended yourself. The one who turned this into something physical was me. And I accept that. Without waiting for an answer, he hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, wondering what kind of person could manipulate someone to that extent. 3.5 months passed after that call. 3.5 months of absolute peace and no drama, no threats, no chaos. I returned to a normal routine, worked, spent time with friends, visited my parents on weekends, and started going to the gym more regularly. I even recovered hobbies I had abandoned while with Madison. My apartment felt mine again. I took down all the photos left of us and replaced them with art I really liked. I bought new furniture, not the ones she had insisted on having, and even adopted a rescued mixed-breed dog, Buster, who seemed to have found heaven just by having a home. My life was calm, exactly what I needed. Tyler, always insistent, tried several times to introduce me to a friend from the church his wife attended. I went on a date with her. She was sweet, kind, but I was honest with her. I wasn't ready for a serious relationship. She understood without issue. I also went out a couple of times with other Piaplino commitments, no pressure, simple, adult, balanced, very different from what I had lived before. Meanwhile, my sister Lauren kept spying on Madison's social media. She looks miserable, she told me during a family dinner in early April. She posted a quote about betrayal and trust issues. Good, opined my mother without looking up from her plate. She earned it. My father shook his head. I still can't believe she rejected you on Christmas night. In my day, that would have been grounds for public shame. In your day, people got married at 20 and then lived together out of pure stubbornness, I replied. And look how it turned out, commented Mom before throwing a roll at my dad. Everything was going as it should. Until mid-April, when Madison decided to appear for the last time. By then, I was casually seeing someone. Her name was Emily. She was a nurse at the downtown hospital, and our dates were quiet, without absurd expectations. I didn't know Madison was about to cross my path again. Emily had always been a calm, mature person with her feet completely on the ground. She liked living simply. She paid her own bills, had her own car, never depended on anyone, and never insinuated that I had to finance anything for her. That normality, after what I lived with Madison, felt like an immense relief. That's why, on that Saturday afternoon in mid-April, when the two of us were in my apartment watching a random movie and Buster was sleeping at my feet with his snout resting on the floor, I felt like I finally had something resembling peace. It wasn't an extraordinary moment, but it was one of those small instants that make you think maybe you're starting to heal. But that calm lasted very little. Sharp knocks on the door pulled us out of the movie. At first, I thought it might be a neighbor asking for something or maybe a package. I got up without giving it much thought, but as soon as I looked through the peephole, my stomach shrank. It was her. Madison. Standing in my hallway, holding a plate covered with aluminum foil, as if she were visiting an old friend instead of showing up at the house of someone who had a restraining order against her. I opened the door cautiously, and then I got a good look at her. Madison was different, and not in a positive way. Thinner, with a worn-out air, as if the last couple of months had wrung her out. She wasn't wearing makeup, something unthinkable for the version of her I knew. Her hair was tied back shapelessly, and she wore worn-out jeans and a plain t-shirt. None of those designer clothes she defended as if they were her identity. There was something dull in her gaze, a confused mix of vulnerability and tension. "Hi," she said in a low voice, barely audible. "Madison, what are you doing here?" She lifted the plate a little. "I wanted to talk to you. I made you some cookies, your favorites with extra chips. I remembered you liked them that way. Can we talk for 5 minutes?" Just that. I had to contain my frustration to answer her. "You can't be here. There's a restraining order. You know that." Yes, I know, but I just wanted to apologize for real for everything." Her voice trembled slightly. "I beg you, just listen to me for a moment." At that moment, Emily approached from behind me, not understanding exactly who was on the other side. "Is something wrong?" she asked, concerned. Madison looked at her as if that simple sight had lit an internal fuse. Her entire body tensed immediately. The soft and uncomfortable expression she had brought transformed into something completely different, something hard. "And who is this supposed to be?" she spat with a tone loaded with venom. "Madison," I replied firmly. "You have to go now." No, she repeated, shaking her head as if she wanted to reject reality. "You moved on already? That fast? In 3 months? With her?" I took out my phone. I had no intention of continuing to tolerate this. "I'm calling the police." "With her?" She pointed at Emily with an aggressive gesture. "Are you serious right now? With this stranger? After everything we went through?" Emily took a step back, surprised by the intensity. I moved my body to block the entrance, anticipating that Madison would try something. "Last warning," I told her. You leave, or I call 911. I came to apologize. Her voice rose until it almost cracked. I spent the whole morning making these cookies trying to get them perfect for you. And you're with some random girl you probably don't even know. I pressed the call button. It was the only responsible thing I could do. Madison saw it, and her look turned dangerous. Don't you dare. Her voice dropped suddenly. Don't you dare call. You are violating the restraining order. Go. She began breathing fast, getting agitated. I dedicated 3 years to this relationship. 3, she screamed, now out of control. And you throw it all away. For her. She tried to look inside the apartment, searching for Emily. You think you're so special, she shouted toward the interior. You're nothing but a rebound for him. A cheap distraction. He doesn't care about you, he's only using you to forget me. Madison. I tried to speak, but she interrupted me abruptly. That pathetic ring was for me, she screamed, crying now. We were going to get married. We were going to have a life together, and you're going to give it to her. With a yank, she removed the aluminum foil from the plate. The cookies were visibly burnt and hardened. She took one and raised it as if it were evidence. You don't want my apologies or my cookies. Perfect. She threw it with force. It passed inches from my head and hit the wall with a blunt impact that left a mark. Before I could say anything, she already had another one in her hand. She started throwing them uncontrollably. One hit the door frame, another entered the apartment and smashed against the floor. They seemed made of stone. The call connected. 911, what is your emergency? My ex-girlfriend is violating a restraining order and is throwing objects inside my apartment. Madison dropped the plate. The cookies scattered all over the hallway, but she wasn't looking at them anymore. Her eyes were locked on Emily with intense hatred. You, she said with a thread of voice loaded with fury. All this is your fault. And she lunged forward. She didn't come at me, she went straight for Emily, trying to slip past my side to enter the apartment. I grabbed her arm firmly and pulled her back. She stumbled and almost fell, but regained her balance immediately, pushing me with surprising strength to try to enter again. Get away from him, she screamed at Emily. Get out. He's mine. He's always been mine. Emily was already at the other end of the living room with trembling hands. Buster was barking and running in circles, unable to understand what was happening. Madison was scratching my arms, trying desperately to pass. I used all my weight to hold the door and keep her out. She pushed, screamed, scratched, cried. It was pure adrenaline mixed with resentment. Sir, stay on the line, asked the operator. Yes, I replied, holding her as best I could. She is trying to enter and attack my girlfriend. Seriously, send help fast. Officers are 3 minutes away. Stay on the line. Madison kept struggling. Her nails made several scratches on me while she repeated incoherent phrases. You ruined everything. Everything. I could fix it. I could make it work. She grabbed a cookie from the ground and threw it like it was a rock. Emily ducked just in time. The cookie hit the living room window with such force I thought it had shattered. Then she took more cookies from the ground and started hurling them inside the apartment without aiming. One hit the TV, another the sofa, another the lamp. Then, finally, the siren was heard. Madison stopped. Her eyes opened disproportionately wide. She looked toward the stairs, then at me, and shook her head, trembling. No, she whispered. You didn't really call. You just wanted to scare me. I just wanted to talk to you. I just wanted you to come back. In that instant, 2 officers arrived at the top of the stairs and illuminated her with their flashlights. As soon as the officers crossed the hallway, they immediately grasped what was occurring. Madison was planted there in the entrance, surrounded by crumbled cookies everywhere, while I had visible nail marks on my arms and my apartment was full of debris scattered on the floor. "Ma'am, step away from the door," one of the agents indicated firmly. Madison turned abruptly toward them. "He attacked me," she exclaimed. I came calmly. "I just wanted to talk, and he was the one who assaulted me." The officer observed me carefully, then looked at my marked arms and then at Emily, who was toward the back of the apartment, pale with fright while Buster barked non-stop. "Sir, are you okay?" "Yes." "She violated a restraining order, tried to force her way in, and attacked my girlfriend," I replied without hesitation. "That's a lie," screamed Madison. "I came to apologize. I brought him cookies, and he lost control." The second officer bent down, picked up one of the cookies from the hallway, and squeezed it between his fingers. He looked at his partner, raising his eyebrows. "Ma'am, what exactly is in this?" "It's dough, they're cookies," she responded indignantly. The officer weighed it in his hand like someone evaluating a baseball. "These don't look like cookies. You could use this as a weapon." His partner barely managed to contain his laughter. "She forgot the baking powder." "Maybe stop making fun of my cookies," shrieked Madison. "I'm not making fun," responded the agent. "I am genuinely concerned about the structural integrity of this. My kids make better cookies with pre-made dough from the supermarket." Then he looked at me. "Sir, did any of these hit you?" "Several hit the walls. One hit my TV." The officer took one of the ones that had bounced off the door frame. "Yeah, I can see why it left a dent. This isn't pastry, it's ammunition." He straightened up. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for violating a restraining order, attempted assault, and destruction of property." "What?" No, this is absurd. I just wanted to talk to him." The agent started reading her rights while she cried, but it was no longer a dramatic cry, it was a desperate, almost hysterical cry. She tried to pull away when he attempted to take her arm. "Don't touch me. I didn't do anything wrong." "Put your hands behind your back," ordered the officer. "This isn't fair. He ruined everything." They had to turn her around and handcuff her. Even then, she kept arguing, crying, and asserting that everything was a misunderstanding. The second officer escorted her downstairs to the patrol car. Her screams could be heard until they exited the building. The first officer stayed to take our statements. I showed him the restraining order on my phone and related step by step what had happened. Emily also gave her version with a trembling but clear voice. The agent took photos of everything: the crushed cookies, the marks on the walls, the damage to the television, the scratches on my arms, and the dent in the door frame caused by a particularly violent cookie. "She will be charged with several counts," he commented. "Violation of a restraining order is serious, and the attempted assault and damages aggravate the situation. With the injuries on you and the threat to your girlfriend, the prosecutor will probably ask for jail time. It will depend on her history and if she accepts a deal, but I would expect at least between 30 and 60 days, plus probation and anger management." When he left, Emily and I stood there observing the scene. Cookie remnants all over the floor, marks on the walls. Buster, finally calm, sniffed the disaster cautiously. "So," said Emily carefully, "that was your ex?" "Yes," I replied. "And she tried to attack me with homemade weapons disguised as cookies." Emily looked at the scattered pieces, then at my arms and the marked wall. "This is too much for a sixth date." "You're right. Call me when you've processed everything and when you're sure she's going to spend a good amount of time in jail," she added with a half-smile. "And consider buying a doorbell camera." She gave me a kiss on the cheek before leaving. I was left alone with Buster, who ended up concluding that the cookies weren't worth the effort. "Don't eat that," I warned him. "You'll break all your teeth." I took more photos for my own records and started making calls. First to Lauren, then to my landlord to inform him of the damage. He arrived an hour later. He observed the debris on the floor, the dent in the wall, and the mark on the frame. He picked up a piece of cookie. Then he said slowly, "Your ex did this?" "Yes, with cookies." He tried to break the piece between his fingers. He couldn't. "What kind of cookie is this? Did she use cement?" "Apparently she didn't use baking powder and put in too much flour." The man let out a laugh. "In 30 years of being a landlord, I've seen everything. But never someone turning bakery products into weapons." He reviewed the damages. "You'll have to cover the repair. Putty, paint, and I have to check that frame." "She is being charged," I said. "I'll take care of everything necessary." "Good. Document everything, photos, police reports, everything. And next time, don't open the door." Lesson learned. 6 months later, I received a call from the prosecutor's office, one of those you don't expect, but you know exactly what it's about as soon as you see the number. Upon answering, the paralegal informed me with a formal and almost routine tone that Madison had decided to accept a plea deal to avoid a long trial. They explained that the deal included 45 days in county jail, a year and a half of probation, mandatory impulse control classes, and full payment for the damages caused that chaotic afternoon. They detailed the final figure: wall repairs, door frame fix, partial replacement of the TV, and my medical expenses for the scratches. Everything totaled around $1,240. They also confirmed that the restraining order was renewed for 5 additional years, this time under stricter conditions due to recidivism and violent behavior. I thanked them for the call, hung up, and felt, for the first time in months, a kind of real closure. From there, the silence was absolute. I never received anonymous messages again, nor strange emails, nor attempts at contact disguised as coincidences. It was as if Madison had simply vanished from my life, and honestly, I preferred it that way. Over time, Emily and I strengthened our relationship. She continued demonstrating exactly what I was looking for: independence, balance, and a sense of partnership that made everything feel natural and simple. Buster, who at first only tolerated her because he barked like crazy that night, ended up adoring her. Now he sits next to her on the sofa as if he had chosen her himself. My family welcomed her with open arms. They realized that Emily was a stable person, with her own world and no interest in turning my life into a project she had to sustain out of obligation. We share responsibilities, decisions, and moments, and all that created a sense of tranquility I didn't remember having before. And about the ring, that one for $8,200 that was destined for someone who never valued anything, it remains kept in the safety deposit box, intact. Sometimes I open it just to make sure it's still there, reminding myself that things can change drastically when one starts setting boundaries. I haven't decided what to do with it. Maybe someday I'll find the right person to wear it, or perhaps I'll end up selling it and closing that chapter once and for all. For now, it simply stays where it is, as a silent reminder of a story I would prefer not to repeat.